Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Welcome to Everything in Bloom on the 8th, which I will try and get actually posted on the 8th. I've got a hell of a day today, so I'm filming early in the day, but actually editing the video and getting it posted might have to wait till later this evening. But I'll get it there. I'll get it there. Right, there's a few surprises. I'm going to start with the first surprise. My Dendrobium Comet King Kiki has just opened a bud. Okay, it's only one, but with a bloom that big on a Kiki, I'm quite happy. That's just literally, that was a bud yesterday while I was out all day. It's opened overnight because it certainly wasn't open yesterday evening. So it's not fully open yet, but open good enough to make it on the video. So that's Dendrobium Comet King. As I say, I want new growths on that, not flipping blooms. That's supposed to be growing on at the moment. Still, we'll have them as they come. My Dendrobium Friedrichsianum is just finishing now. This is its last set of buds, complete with mealybug up there. Sorry, dead mealybug. But this literally is it. This has only got a few more days to go, which is a shame. But it has lasted incredibly well. You know, from the first few blooms right through to the mass blooming. Actually got a first at... no, it didn't. It actually got an award of merit at the Malvern show. I knew it got something. Yeah, it missed the 2 orchid societies. It was only just opening up for one of them, and it was sort of going over for the second one. Anyway, it's been a good show. Be sorry to see it go, but it's sort of on its way now. My species Tolumnia, this spike has finished now. This is Tolumnia Europhylla, and the last 2 blooms on the second spike are starting to fade. You can see the difference between the left bloom, which is slightly less yellow than when it first opened, and then the right hand bloom is fading fast. So but 2 spikes on that one. That hasn't bloomed for a couple of years, so I was pleased to see some spikes. And obviously with the Tolumnia, I won't cut those spikes on the grounds they do branch sometimes, but being a species, whoops, it probably won't, bouncing all over the place. Let's have a look at this one. This is a Dendrobium infundibulum crossed with Lowii. So the blooms are slightly smaller than infundibulum, but the colour in the lip is a little more intense. Yeah, it's lasting quite well. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. It's been open a while now. Just a single pair of blooms. This type blooms straight out of the apex of canes when they mature. And on this one, you don't have to wait long. You know, literally, not long after the canes mature, the buds start to form, or the spike starts to form, then the buds. But yeah, quite Cattleya-like for a Dendrobium. But that is the purest of whites. That's really nice, and that sort of deep orangey yellow in the lip with the veining. Very attractive blooms. Right, what else can I get at without moving stuff around? Dendrobium hibiki, this is doing incredibly well, complete with ant. Missed him. Oh, for goodness sake. Gotcha. Yeah. Oh, I've managed to, on the ant front, I've managed to find where they were getting in, so the numbers are down very, very low now. You know, low enough that it's an odd one now and again, literally, as opposed to like each day I was killing like 20 or 30 ants, whereas now it's about 4 or 5, something like that. So I think I've found them, and all that's left are those that are already in here. I think if they decide to return to their source, then they won't be coming back. So that's appropriate sprays. But Dendrobium hibiki is doing very well. The first 2 clusters that opened are the largest by far, but it has got further clusters coming on round the back here that are just starting to open, and then we've got more to come down here. So there's more clusters of buds coming on behind, so this is going to be in bloom a very, very long time. And then if it'll stay still long enough to film, because it's a very, very small bloom, this is this hybrid Phalaenopsis with the unusual colouring. So if I can't keep this still, I won't be able to film it, or I won't be able to get very close anyway. Oh, it's early in the day, my hands aren't that steady, but yeah, it's an unusual colouring, veining, and I've forgotten the name of the species again, but there is a species Phalaenopsis that's its trait is the fact that you can never really predict what colour the blooms are going to come out. They're a combination of patchy white and red. Sometimes they're pure white, sometimes they're red, but most of the time they're sort of, you might get like a white bloom with one red petal or something, and this has probably got some traits of that in it, even though it's a very pale colour. But to have two sepals, entirely different colours, is quite unusual. Pretty little bloom. Right, where can we go next? Let's start low and work up. Oh, my Phalaenopsis Sweet Memory. That had 3 blooms that were out for ages. They've just gone over, hotly followed by 3 more blooms. And this is a stem that's branched, and each, I mean, there's the original sort of cane here, and then the 2 branches, and it seems to produce a bud on the end of each section, and then as that bud starts to fade, the next set push on. It just keeps extending. So at the moment I've got 3 blooms. An amount of fragrance on this. I wouldn't say it was highly fragrant. It certainly doesn't fill the room like some of my other orchids, but there is a fragrance there that's quite pleasant, and a nice combination of colours, and very attractive patterning. It's quite a good one, that. I believe that this is Sweet Memory, and there's a very popular one that looks incredibly similar called Leodora, I think, and I'm pretty sure that both of them have exactly the same parents. It's just that the cross is the other way round. Yeah, I think that's all it is. That is the main difference. And then down here we've got our 2 Miltoniopsis that are open at the moment. This is just a no ID hybrid. Lovely patterning on that, and lovely deep colours, absolutely gorgeous. And the other one that's just literally just opened is called Junette. I got this last year in bloom, and the blooms faded very rapidly. So I'm pleased at the moment that it's opened yellow, which was the reason I bought it. I've got a hell of a job to get yellow Miltoniopsis in this country, or in the EU basically. And I was talking to Sarah at Burnham's about that after I'd filmed the Miltoniopsis species in the well, in the staff area basically. It was where they keep all their stock plants. I was having a quick look round there, and that was a yellow species, so that's probably where most yellow Miltoniopsis hybrids get their origins, you know, their colour from. I said, got any to spare? She said, nope, I've only got the one. You're not having it. I did try. So that's my 2 Miltoniopsis that are out at the moment. I've got 1 Disa out at the moment, which is Cuensis, and I'm a little well, I won't say upset. You've got to do your bit for your Orchid Society, but this Disa here with the larger plants in, that was specifically planted, the 3 largest plants I had planted to all bloom, and they all did. But since going to Malvern, the blooms have just gone rapidly. So you know, what was a good pot full of blooms are now lost. But there's quite a lot of plantlets growing around the base, so there's definitely more to come. But these were planted together the next size down to grow on, and 2 of them have bloomed. So I have got some Disa Cuensis in bloom at the moment still, and I suspect these will last a while, even though they don't like this heat. But yeah, the others on the other plants just keeled over. They didn't take to going to Malvern and then being brought back again. So they're gone. Ooh, so I'm dragging off the plants with me now. my only Zygopetalum that's out at the moment. This is just a no ID hybrid. Irrespective of whether it's got a name or not, it's still incredibly attractive. The purple on the lip has changed colour. This wasn't the same purple that was there when it first opened, but it has changed. But the petals and sepals are a lovely green. They really are green. I don't know how much the camera picks up. And then the deepest burgundy, bordering on brown, but it is a rich burgundy. Lovely colour. Only slightly fragrant, that one. Right, let's see if we can get at the sea of orchids over here, because they're a bit jumbled up at the moment. Shelob Tolkien up here, so I'm just getting another ant. That's got 2 spikes left, and this spike's just starting to go. I love Shelob Tolkien when the blooms die, because they get this deep pink staining on the lip. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the blooms themselves are nice enough, but they just change colour as they start to die, and they get this washed look, as though they were done with watercolours and some water's got on the paper and it's all started to run together. But that's what they're supposed to look like anyway. And then there's this will be the last spike to fade, because this was the last one to open. So that's Shelob Tolkien. It's a Bratonia, I believe. And then literally just opening at the moment is Peter Comp. I think that's an Oncostelli. Have a quick look. Chances are it's changed since I wrote the tag anyway. It is, no, it's a Miltonidium. You know, totally wrong. More coffee. But yeah, these are highly fragrant. This one's well worth getting if you're into fragrant stuff, because this one pushes it out quite strong. It's got a second spike over the back here as well, coming on. So what have we got on here? 5 buds on that spike, and I think there's 3 on the other one. So, and they last quite a while. They're doing okay. And then we've got Miltonia Sunset is just opening up this spike, and over the back of the plant, buried somewhere, is a second spike coming on behind. This has got quite a few buds on actually. It's got 2 open, another 2, 4, another 5 probably that will open in succession. And this one changes colour. It's at its best within 2 or 3 days of opening. It's when the yellow is richest. It's a very unusual combination of colours that just seems to work. You know, somebody said, we're going to put yellow and purple and red and a different colour yellow together. What do you think? Should we do your kitchen up like that? And you'd probably say, no, I don't think so. But in a bloom, it works. Virtually no fragrance on that, which is a shame, but lovely attractive blooms, and as common as muck. If you like that, practically every place you go will sell you one of them. And this is Oncostelli. This is Wildcat Cheetah. Still in bloom. It's been open a long time, and very sturdy blooms, very waxy blooms on the Wildcat set. There's quite a few of them. Cheetah's probably one of my favourites, but the one that I lost that was my favourite was Bobcat. If I come across that again, I will get it. That is one to be replaced. Bobcat is beautiful. This deep red colour that's just markings on this one virtually covers the whole of the petals and sepals, leaving the very edge in this deep yellow. And they're quite stunning. That's that one. And then this one is just opened for the first time in 3 or 4 flipping years. And this has got a very long name. It's an Alisara, and it's Evening Colours The Gloaming. And it shares a lot of its colours with Shelob Tolkien. But if you put the two together, the lip on this, for me, is more attractive. Because instead of just having white round the blotches, it's got this yellowy creamy colour. Very, very attractive blooms. As I say, I've been rescuing this plant for so long, but we finally got there. Right, my phone's going. I'll have to break and come back. Right, I need to get a move on now because it's starting to warm up in here, and I've got to water all my mounts before I can get out of here and it gets too hot. Closing the door round will probably stop the foggers going for a bit, not for long. Last bloom left on that Tolumnia, that's Sunset Pink, and it's fading, so it's on its way out, and I don't see any signs of branching on that spike, but we'll wait and see. They do branch occasionally. These Vanda blooms are going, and they haven't lasted that long. Some of these blooms opened with brown marks, so this spike's not long for the world now. They're fading fast. I've got a feeling this has an element of cool grower in it, and it just doesn't like the heat. Another spike coming on behind, and the orange one, the first spike on that one, that's a no ID. It was a Ascosenda when it was bought, but that's a cross between a Vanda and an Ascocentrum, I think they're called, and they were virtually all reclassified as Vandas, so it's a Vanda. No ID, but very, very attractive, and a second spike coming on behind there, so that's going to be in bloom for some time, I hope. Right, that's up in the gods done. What haven't I done? What haven't I done? Come on. Scanning. Oh, Dendrobium Wedding Bells is still going strong, but as you can see, the blooms are starting to fade now. So it's not going to be with us too much longer, I don't think, but it's certainly hanging on well. The blooms have lasted really well. Classed as a nobly type, sort of, as opposed to this, which is definitely a nobly type, and this is blooming out of season. This was the Dendrobium Prima Donna, and the huge plant that I had was getting a bit tired, you know, more older canes than new canes, climbing out the pot, so I split it and repotted it. One of the splits went off to somebody else, and this one's staying with me to grow on now. It's got several new growths starting, 3 in fact. So that will be next spring's blooms on those canes when they've matured and rested through the winter a bit. And these canes have not finished, even though they bloomed this year, and in this case are still blooming, they didn't bloom over their entire length. So these older canes will probably drop most of their leaves during the winter and still produce some blooms next spring. So I should get a reasonable blooming on that. My Epidendrum Comet Valley, I've forgotten, Sunset something. Comet Valley Sunset Orange, I'll get there in a minute. The colour of the bloom should have been a giveaway really, shouldn't it? This is fading. There's nowhere near as many flowers on the actual pom-poms now, and the number of buds forming at the top is getting a very low count. So this is finishing now, but I mean this has been in bloom over 3 months, probably 4. So it's done incredibly well, and it's got new growths pushing on down in here, so they'll mature and then bloom again later. They only bloom once per cane basically, because it's a terminal spike that pushes up from the top, and they extend and extend and just keep blooming over and over again, so they're well worth having. And a multitude of colours on these types. They're radicans types. You can get like quite deep reds, you know, through to the paler reds and then into the oranges and into the yellows. A vast variety of colours, and for blooms that last ages and are unusual as individual blooms because they're upside down. The lip effectively nicknamed the crucifix orchid because the lip is upside down and forms like a cross, sort of. So that's that one, and there's one other thing somewhere lurking. Where is it? Ooh, it's up above my head, isn't it? Let's get it down. Have a good look. This is Dendrobium senile. This, again, the blooms are not going to be with us too much longer. The one on the left is fading. They tend to close and then fade and drop. They opened in a sequence. One's already dropped. That'll be the next one to go, and the one in the middle will be not long after, just a few days, and the one on the right should last a little bit longer because it opened quite a bit later than the first three. And quite honestly, it shouldn't have even bloomed because it didn't get rested at all. But nonetheless, I was pleased to see some blooms on this plant. At the moment, it's doing new growths. It is pushing out a lot of new growths. So hopefully by the end of this year, that should be quite a mature plant, you know, with lots of new canes, hopefully to bloom next year. And it could still bloom on some of the older canes. It's only bloomed on 2 canes effectively. And if you look to the left of the cane with the 2 blooms, that cane's going to be plenty big enough to bloom, and the one above could possibly bloom as well. And then we're looking at the new growths pushing on. So, yeah. I mean, it will eventually become deciduous. You know, the leaves will drop, and then it just looks like a hairy tarantula on a piece of wood. Does look odd when the leaves go, I must admit. But anyway, growing on well, and blooms hanging in there. So not bad at all. That lives up there. Ugh. Right, that's everything in bloom. So I'm just having another scan round. I've got a habit of missing one. I don't think I have this time. I've got everything. There's only one Restrepia with a bloom on at the moment, and it's right at the back, and it would mean getting all the plants out to film one Restrepia bloom. So tough, you're not having it. There's only so much I can do. Plenty of spikes coming in quite a few places, so there are more things to see down the line. And I haven't got a busy day out here today, but I've got to water my mounts properly. I can't get away with spraying them today because they didn't get watered at all yesterday. They had to suffer it. I mean, they won't die of thirst in one day, but I mean, I checked my minimum maximum thing. I mean, I actually got up to over 33 in here yesterday. That's too flipping hot. Luckily, the humidity with all 3 foggers on the go didn't drop down too much, but it's my only saving grace really, is trying to keep the humidity up as well. And we'll see how we go. It's going to be another hot one. It's totally clear out there today, not a cloud in the sky, not even a wisp, nothing. Clear blue, and the temperature is going to be hot as well. Forecast says cooler temperatures during the week coming, but no respite as far as the sunshine is concerned. There might be some cloud around, but not much. And still no rain in the forecast. Nothing. The old gardens are really suffering now. I even drove past a golf course yesterday that was quite brown. It's not quite the same going for a round of golf on the brown rather than on the green. They had looked after the greens though. There were bright circle-y shapes all over the hillside of brilliant green. So they're obviously getting watered. Probably every evening or something. Anyway, that's it for today, and I'll see you next time. I hope you enjoy the video of my trip to Burnham's. I've put it together. It's loaded. It's there to see if you're interested, and it's a place I will return to as long as they can keep their business going, which at the moment it shows no signs of failing, I must admit. I mean, there are all the shows, and the big ones, and they come around the Orchid Society shows. They're very active. They're out and about all the time. It's a well organised, polished event when they turn up. The back of the van opens, and out come the racks and the things, and their setup is so fast it makes people stand there scratching their head. How can you get that many orchids set up that quickly? It's because they practice. They're very good at it. And at the moment, it's quite honestly, it's the only decent orchid nursery left in the country. That is it. There's a couple of specialist nurseries still lying around, but really, that is it now. They're the only one left. So we've got to support them, yeah? So when they're at your show, buy a couple of plants. Or if they're, you know, if you visit them, buy a couple of plants. I mean, I felt a bit guilty only coming home with one. But I hadn't intended buying any. So that was one more than they they would have expected to get out of me. So anyway, that's everything in bloom on the 8th, and I'll see you in future videos. I've got no idea what I'll be filming during the week. It'll be as and when I come across things. As I say, there's some buds forming in places and spikes pushing on and things like that. I may do some individual category updates, like Holy Clay Pot update, or a look at all the Tolumnias, or something like that. There's always ideas around, and if you've got any ideas for videos, leave them in the comments. I'll always do my best. You know, if somebody makes a suggestion and it can be done, then I'll do it. I'm always open to ideas, so keep them coming and I'll see what I can do. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.